I think it's surreal. I I couldn't have ever imagined this. I used to be in my prison cell dreaming about maybe like one day.
I know you've written some plays as well. I'm wondering, of all your stories, screenplays, theatrical plays, what's the closest to your heart? What means the most to you? Which
My
one?
plays.
Your plays?
Yeah.
You have at least 3 of them, right?
I have 2 full-length plays, I have 2 short plays, and I have 3 outlines for full-length plays. And only one of my plays has been produced. There's a simple reason for that too. Adam and I are partners, 50-50 partners on every single television pilot or television show or movie, film that we write. We are partners on those things. And when you read those scripts, they're ours, you know, they're both of our voices put together. But my plays are mine. His plays are his. You know, he's got his own plays, and that he gets out there. I have my plays. They're my voice and only my voice, and I feel like they're a part of me. So that's why they're very important to me.
And you said only one had been performed?
One had been produced. Yeah.
Okay.
I wrote a play kind of by accident. So I woke up with a name on my mind when I first moved to LA, and the name was Musket Cherry. And I wrote it down, and we were living, my wife and I were living like right next to Larchmont in Koreatown. And I wrote it down. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I don't know why it popped into my brain. I have no idea why. I never did any theater. I never read any plays. But my wife has done over 100 plays. I mean, she's a classically trained actor that has just done a lot of theater in Chicago. And so I was rolling around with this story in this name in my mind, and then I kind of just like created this story. And so I read this play. I read a Stephen Adly Guirgis play, the MFer with the hat, right? And I was like, wow, you could write stuff like, I didn't know that you could write plays like that. I thought, I was so ignorant to it. I thought that plays were only like Shakespeare, you know? I didn't know that you could write street stuff. And my wife said, you could write whatever you want. And so, and this was, by the way, before I had that dream. I had read that play, and then so I had that dream. I woke up with that name, and I came up with this story about this just tough chick on the northwest side of Chicago in Jefferson Park who sold heroin out of her mom's basement. And her mom's an alcoholic, her dad's out of the picture, and the only good thing in her life is her little brother. And she's trying to get him out. She's trying to get him out of the city to save his life. And she's got a kind of like an abusive jerk boyfriend, gang member. And, you know, her world comes crashing down around her when her little brother gets arrested for a crime he didn't commit, and she's got to get the bail money. And so I wrote that in a play. I had no idea what I was doing. I had just read that one play, so I kind of knew, okay, it goes by dialogue. You don't write actions, you just write dialogue. Everything is performed by the actors, and you just do the dialogue with very simple stage directions. And that's what I wrote. And so I did it, and, you know, my partner Adam read it. He's like, oh, this is pretty good. I'm like, oh, thanks. And my wife's like, this is really good. And I said, thank you. And then I was teaching a boxing class at Hollywood Boulders. It was a climbing gym on Santa Monica and Bronson. I was teaching a boxing class. And I had a lot of actors and people come to the class. I would teach it once a week because they gave me a free membership to the gym. Like, that was why I taught this class. I used to pay for a membership there. Then they found out I was a pro boxer. They said, would you teach a class? We'll give you a free membership for you and your wife. I says, yeah, okay. So I'm doing that. And there's a guy in my class talking about theater. I told him I was a playwright. And he like looked at me like I was lying to him. You know, I don't know, maybe my personality, I'm not sure. But I said, no, really, I'm a playwright. He goes, can I read your play? I go, yeah. And so I emailed it to him. And he called me and he said, hey, Sammy, can we meet at Groundworks? I want to talk to you about your play. I said, okay. And I met him. And he said, hey, man, so I have a production company with my family and I want to produce your play. And he produced it. And so my play went up. It was a short run. It was a 2.5-week run. But it was, you know, it was an equity play, and it was at a 99-seat theater in Hollywood, and it did really well. It got really good reviews. And it was, you know, the actors were awesome. And yeah, it was like incredibly special.
Musket and the Rat?
Musket and the Rat. And had it not been for Musket and the Rat, I don't think I'd just be back to doing stunts and only stunts, because the woman who is now my manager came to a performance, and she was an agent at CAA for 14 years. And she came to the play, and she came up to me afterwards. She had already left the agency, and she came up to me and she says, you know, the dialogue's really good. I go, oh, thanks a lot. And she said, you know, have you ever heard of Gary Lennon? I said, I'm sorry. No, I haven't. She goes, oh, you guys have a lot in common. You should meet him. I didn't know who he was. And I looked him up when I got home, and I saw he's a showrunner and he's a playwright. And so, and he's, you know, he's prolific. He's done and Gary is one of my mentors now. You know, I love Gary, but it's just crazy. Back then I didn't know who he was. So I ordered all of his plays, and I read all of his plays. I'm like, wow, I like this guy's writing. Like, this guy's good. And I set up a meeting, or I didn't set up a meeting. She set up a meeting with Gary and I met him, and this is before COVID. And we met and had coffee, and he said he didn't even know I had a writing partner. He had just read the play, which was flagged for him by his assistant, who now is, you know, she's now an incredibly talented screenwriter who's, you know, working on television in the WGA. But his assistant flagged it for him to read. Said, yeah, you'll probably like this, Gary. And so I met him, and he said, you know, hey, this is really good. I like this. You should be working. I said, thanks. I said, I'd love to work. He goes, well, if you could write on any show, what would it be? I said, whatever you're doing, buddy, hire me. And he laughed at me. He laughed just like that, just like you laughing right now. He laughed at me, and he said, he's like, okay, good answer. And 3 years later, we got a call from him, and he said, hey, send me your best Chicago sample right now. I can't promise you anything, but if it's good, I'll fight for you. And we got offered a job staffing the next day. We got our first staff writer position. Yeah.
You said something about he wanted a Chicago story?
Yeah, so Gary had just started show running Power Book 4 Force in Chicago. And he was looking for a Chicago sample, a sample of a show set in Chicago, which is kind of my wheelhouse, you know. So Adam and I Adam's also from Chicago as well. And we set, not everything, but a lot of our projects are set in Chicago. It's a city that's very dear to me, and I know it very well. And so, yeah, we sent him one of our specs, and that was it.
I wanted to ask you about your play, Musket and the Rat. So how was it to never have written a play, or I mean, let me just ask you this. Where did you first begin writing it? Like physically, where were you writing this play?
Probably in my living room on my laptop, on my MacBook Air. Yeah.
Okay. And so then you'd met this gentleman who said, look, me and my family have a production company. We want to make this. Opening night, you're hearing people say dialogue. Maybe you know these characters loosely, maybe not. But you know the world, maybe not. How was it to see these theater goers laughing, maybe not, maybe being
awesome.
shocked?
Well, first of all, yes, I knew the world. I knew the world intimately. That the entire world of heroin and gangs and drug abuse and violence. Yeah, that's a world I know very, very well. So yeah, it was seeing the actors bring the words to life was something. But it was incredible. It was incredible. It was so cool to see things that I wrote being performed by an actor. it was awesome. I mean, I just thought it was incredible. I did have a little, some differences with the director. I had a part that I was going to play, and you know, I created the character. I like literally created the character, and I wanted to play this character. And the director had a different idea of who the character was, and rather than get into a, you know, any type of an argument with him, I kind of recused myself from performing, and I said, I think I'm just gonna sit this out. You can cast somebody else, and I'm gonna just observe as a writer. And that's what I did. But it was, opening night was incredible. Opening night, it was a packed house. There was a lot of people there. I had friends of mine from Chicago come. You know, I had former gang members, current gang members come. I had people that I know, you know, from out here in Los Angeles that aren't in the business, you know, come, and just the response was awesome. People were like, this is incredible. We've never seen anything like this. It was so great. It was incredibly fulfilling.
A former CAA agent came. What's her name?
Her name's Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
she's my manager now. And
Oh, okay.
so, yeah, now she's a manager. But yeah, she came. She came and saw the play. And I think that was like mid-run, you know.
So here's something that you didn't even know you could do a play sort of on this sort of street world or whatever, the world of drug dealing. Or
I had no idea. And now Adam and I had already written probably 3 pilots by that time and like 2 specs. We were finalists for the Warner Brothers Writers Workshop. I mean, we placed in a bunch of different competitions. I mean, we were already well on our way writing stuff, but we weren't getting anywhere. I mean, we made the finals of the WB Writers Workshop, which is a really big deal. And you know, and they kept track of us after that, even though we didn't get in. But you know, we weren't getting anything. It was really frustrating, and I never ever could have imagined that me writing this play would attract people that would be able to change our life. I mean, Elizabeth changed my life by introducing me to Gary, and Gary changed my life by giving us a shot. You know, it was incredible.
and when you saw Musket come to life, how was that? I don't know if you met the actress.
Yeah, I met all the actors. I was there quite a few times. The director let me come to as many rehearsals as I want. It was really it was a very good experience for me. And yeah, no, it was they were great. All the actors were great. I want to see it put up in Chicago. It's a Chicago story. It's about Chicago gang culture. It's about Chicago drug culture. It's about Chicago people. It deserves to be put up in Chicago. And that's what I want. That's what my dream is right now, to get that play put up in Chicago.
What is the Chicago energy to the story? I just find that interesting.
To the story?
Yeah.
Well, look, I wrote a strong, excuse my language, badass female character, you know, unlike other female characters that I've seen on the screen, you know. And I knew women like her. I knew women like her, you know. And so I wrote this character she's not to be messed around with. She will come at you like any man will. She's the real deal. She doesn't suffer fools, you know. And that Chicago doesn't suffer fools, you know. People in Chicago don't suffer fools. She didn't suffer fools. She was about her money. She was about her business. She doesn't mess around. That's who Musket Cherry is. And that's the character that I created, you know. And so the actors did an incredible job out here in LA, but I want to see it in Chicago, performed by Chicago actors. That's what I would love to see. Not because the LA cast wasn't excellent. They were, but because I want to see it in Chicago. It's my own thing. I want to see it.
And so she's hard as nails, doesn't suffer fools, but she cares for her brother.
Exactly. She's hard as nails. She doesn't suffer fools, you know. she'll do whatever she's got to do, but she's got a huge heart. She's got a huge heart and she's loyal. You know, a lot of the stories that I tell, a lot of the stories that I'm interested in telling center around loyalty and disloyalty and trust, you know, and betrayal. Like those are themes that I'm very interested in my work, you know. And Adam and I both are interested in our work, but I mean, specifically speaking, with regards to especially like plays that I write, I'm very interested in those topics because I've experienced a lot of that, you know.
What do you think about the fact that you are now able to make a living from essentially some of the things that happened to you by taking these stories or the essence of who some of these people were or are still currently?
Yeah. I think it's surreal. I couldn't have ever imagined this. I used to be in my prison cell dreaming about maybe like one day like having a girlfriend and maybe like a job, maybe, and just doing something positive, you know. And then when I got out, I remember like one of my biggest aspirations, I got a job at Jersey Mike's for a little while, the sub shop. Job very briefly there. But I was so excited that I got a job there, and I thought, one day, I'm going to open up a Jersey Mike's franchise. First, I'm going to become the manager, and then I'm going to get a franchise. You know? I mean, my world was very small back then, and I didn't think that I could do much. So to go through it all and then get to a place where now, I mean, first of all, as a stunt guy, as a stuntman, I was playing the armed robber. I was playing the drug addict. I was playing the car thief. I'm playing these people that are shooting, getting shot. This is, I mean, I was the armed robber, the car thief. You know, I was that guy when I was younger. And now I was portraying that guy on TV and I'm making a living doing it. It was, I mean, I remember like working on Chicago PD season 2 or whatever, the stunt coordinator, like, man, Sammy, that's real natural. You look real. So like, it's just, it was mind boggling. And then to go from that to then writing characters and creating characters and, you know, getting to do that aspect of things, which is what I'm doing now. There's what, you know, only somebody that's done it can really relate to it, I suppose. I can't really articulate it, you know, well enough. It's incredible. It's awesome.